righty. Let's go ahead and start diving in. So, um, welcome to Defying Publishing. This is first in a series of live webinars where I give you a glimpse into everything that we do at the Indie Author School and provide some insight that will hopefully help you on your way to publishing your book. So, before we dive in, I thought it might be helpful to introduce myself a little bit. So, from a young age, of being a writer, author, I would write stories on our family desk. I published family newspaper called the Baker Gazette, filled with stories about my immediate family for my immediate family, all of which they already knew. And my first book I wrote at school was called The Way of the Wild. And let's just go ahead and pretend I didn't just read The Call of the Wild right before that. Essentially, just write the same thing because it was about a wolf. But as I got older, even wanted to be an author, the world told me I needed a conventional job. So I had many, sometimes many of them at the same time. I was a teacher, I was a nanny, copy editor, I was a horse groom. That's a fun one. I was a realtor, built my own business. I was a property manager, none at all. Customer success manager. I was a full-time corporate girl on an exec team and everything. There are plenty of other jobs that I am forgetting. And meanwhile, I was working my way up the corporate ladder, still working odd jobs on the side to make it. Like I had sometimes multiple of those jobs at the same time. And I did love teaching. I will say that. I have always loved teaching, but I had been taught that a conventional job was the only way. It was the means to the end. And so hours before and after work, I would write. I went to writing school. I started my podcast. I learned a lot. And thanks to everything I learned through all of that, I rewrote and edited it. And when I knew it was finally ready to publish, I started querying agents, which it's very possible you are doing right now. So I queried and I queried and I queried. And I actually had queried 130 agents by the end, I think. And then I lost my job. And what could have been a moment of devastation for me became an opportunity because I changed a lot about my life. If you can see my background, I know it's a really tiny little thing, but I live in a cabin in the woods, so it's not exactly very expensive. Not here, and I don't need a corporate job anymore. And so I took the opportunity that was presented to me. I stopped querying myself. I was done waiting, basically. Wouldn't you know it, the book became a bestseller, which is still kind of wild to me. I only recently learned that. But it wasn't luck. I am very, but it wasn't luck because I worked really hard on this book. There are plenty that live on this computer that don't deserve to see the light of day, but this one did. And all that work paid off and it became a bestseller. And because of that, I started the Indie Author School because I want to be able to teach other people how to do everything that I did to succeed so that they can do it too, so that you can do it too. All right. Now that you know a little bit more about me, let's dive into the actual reason why you all are here. So, like I said, this is the first in a series. I'm trying this out and I'm having fun with it so far. So this is going to be the broadest topic that I cover in this. And it's really just an introduction to the steps that you will need to take to indie publish. To be clear, these are all the steps that would also be taken for a traditional book, but publish yourself, run the show. And not all of these steps might be obvious. I know that if I hadn't had my podcast where I spoke to so many authors, I might not have known all or some of them and how to tackle it. So let's take a look. So these are the steps that we're going to look at today. And we're going to dig in a couple more of them, and then we're going to look at a timeline for how they all play together, about how much you should expect. So assuming you're coming into this with a finished book, finished manuscript, I should say. It's not a book quite yet. Steps through on the road to publishing are editing, lots of editing, artwork and design. You're going to find some beta and sensitivity readers. Your book, put that book into a publishing platform. You're going to get an e-proof copy. You're going to get a print proof copy. Read your proof copy, and then you're going to do some build up to your actual release day with arcs and some marketing and your release day. And then you get to dive back into more marketing. That's a whole different webinar. We're not going to talk about that part today. But these are the steps we're going to cover, and let's look at that first, editing. There's a lot of different types of editing. I'm so sorry. I have a cat here that is determined to be a part of this. She's clinging to all right. So different types of editing. Kind of big pieces that are going to lead up to your finished work, so to speak. One is developmental editing. So arguably this is the most important of editing. These are the edits that fix the issues with the story itself. They might be identifying, correcting plot holes, maybe building out character arcs and maybe moving out the structure of the entire book. But it takes that draft that you wrote and turns it into a full-fledged novel with characters that are human and real, have experience. The next one is copy editing. When people think of editing, this is probably what they think of. We're not improving the story here, we're improving the words at a very granular level. So this is where we look for the mechanics of your writing, errors with grammar, spelling, punctuation. The next one is line editing, improving the sentences. So it's perhaps the most tedious type of editing, where we focus on reading experience of your story. This is when you focus on word choice, tone, voice, clarity, and essentially how all those sentences flow together. Finally, we have proofreading. This is kind of the last in the whole process. I like to think of it as the final boss, if you're a video game person. But it is the last round before your manuscript is ready for the world. So it's a bit of all three other types of editing. You need to carefully review that manuscript to make sure that all the edits that you did before, the developmental, the copy, the line editing, all of those have been implemented, and there aren't any other little ones that you missed. So it's kind of the catch all the things into the world. Now, in addition to this, that you can do yourself or hire somebody to do, there's tons of tools for editing. My favorite I talk about in the course is called Pro Writing Aid. It's the Grammarly 2.0 with the work on your work as a novel and helping you improve your writing without taking the suggestions that it gives you, just helping others make it, top quality writing. There's lots of other tools as well, but that one's my personal favorite. And then most importantly, editors themselves. So, obviously there's all these types of editing. There are software tools, but there's no replacement for an actual human editor. If you choose to forego that, proceed at your own risk. But all of these things come to process for your manuscript, which is probably the biggest and the longest step that you will go through in turning that first draft into your final book. I want to reemphasize that point, because if you really take the time to publish and revise a book, the difference between a book that will sell and a book that doesn't sell. Next step, artwork and design. Oh boy, this ranges uh, depending on really how much you want to spend and how deep you want to get into it, and how interested you want your art to be. At a bare minimum, your book needs a cover. Now, if you have a budget, there's tons of options here. You can attempt it yourself in Canva if you're familiar with Canva already. If not, it will become your best friend as an author. Um, Canva, $15. So see the price here, and a lot of them start at 15. They're all things that you can do in Canva. So you could do your book cover in Canva. Books have been designed in Canva and they look great. You can also find someone on one of those job sites like Fiverr or Upwork, pretty reasonable price. Um, and they can design a cover for you. I know a lot of independent authors who've gone that route. Or if you really want to invest, there's a ton of book specific designers that you can hire. These companies specialize in book covers and they can get pricey, but you get what you pay for. I has an absolutely stunning cover and close to $1,200 for it. Like I said, it's stunning. I was on the lower end. I worked with a company called Mibble Art. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. It's Mibla. I loved working with them. It was $300 for a hardcover, paperback cover, and an ebook. And yes, these are all different files. They have to be sized different in order to be loaded correctly for publishing software. Um, Gave them like sad little sketch of an idea, not like an actual sketch. It was just like the thoughts in my head, and they somehow brought to life. It was really impressive. I absolutely love my cover. I would not change a single thing about it, and it was worth it to me to hire them for sure. But again, it depends on your budget, and you can make a beautiful no matter what. Beyond that, it's really up to you how much art you want. It's worth thinking about two things if you are considering just stopping at the book cover. Um, One is the experience. So, as readers are flipping through your book, they love pages with fancy flourishes, like custom chapter headers and custom scene breaks. And they love maps, especially genre. Maps are important. People love maps. I get a lot of commentary on my map. And the second thing is that marketing is a visual medium. Your book is text. And once your book is out in the world, you will need imagery in order to market it. So the more art you have, the more options you have. So some things, like I've mentioned here, you can do custom chapter headers. I designed mine myself. I have a different one for every character point of view. They are made in Canada, $15 a month. A map. Yeah, you can see it. It's right there, actually. So I hired a map artist. It was not $30, but definitely find map artists on Fiverr and Upwork for the $30 range. One author I interviewed on the podcast, I think she said she paid $45 and got 3 different map options. All awesome. And so you can certainly do it within a budget. I thought it was really this incredible book map specific person. If you have fantasy sci-fi, you probably want a map. Also, I see historical fiction books have maps a lot because sometimes they're talking about a very specific place. Modern maps look different, and so it's important to have the historically accurate map for readers to get a real picture of it. Character art. Like I said, this comes in with marketing. You can do it yourself on Canva. That's where this comes in. You can hire artists on Upwork and Fiverr or elsewhere. People reach out to me all the time on social media offering to do character list. I need character art. But you have no shortage of character artists. And finally, bookmarks and freebies. So I do all of mine on Canva, $1 a month again. I have bookmarks, I have stickers, and super easy to design in there. Your cover, depending on which route you go, they also can definitely make custom bookmarks and freebies for you. Yeah. Step, once we have all of that, is formatting your book. It's funny you might not necessarily think about this piece because I certainly would have had I not talked to the authors in the Odyssey of a Novel podcast. You can't just take 8.5 by 11 normal Word document, upload it into a publishing platform, and hit go. It has to be formatted the size of the book. But how much you want to invest, there are a lot of options here. So Atticus is one. That's the one I actually use, and all these are novel-specific formatting softwares. They have all kinds of templates that you can use for font and design, and they have lots of fancy artwork for scene breaks, chapter breaks, and tons of options. And you basically just pick the size of your book, and it formats the document for you. And it'll EPUB that's does that just for free, and then it'll also spit it out in a PDF for you to upload into your publishing software. Now, like I did mention Word, you can use other software if you don't want to splurge on one of those specific. You can use Word, you can use Google Docs. I believe you can use Adobe as well. I've had authors tell me that, and it's just a matter of formatting it correctly. You have to take the time to very carefully resize your page, size your margins to make sure it is sized perfectly. And this is something, once you put it in the software, e-proofs over and over, like you'll be able to verify this and see what you need to change. It's just going to be a more manual process than something like Atticus or Vellum that will do it for you. Another step in the process is readers, and not just the type of readers that will buy your book. So there's a couple types of readers that are going to be to making sure your book is the best it can be. First one of these is beta readers. These are test readers that will back for you. They're kind of having free developmental editors. So while you're still in the format finalizing your book, beta reads, send them an EPUB, what have you. They love to read it for you, give you feedback, tell you things that didn't make sense, questions they had, things that you might not have thought of. And if you're trying to save some money, can't afford a developmental editor, go for the copy editor, get some beta readers, ask for their feedback. Super important type of reader before your book goes out into the world is a sensitivity reader. Readers who are going to make sure that your book isn't going to offend an audience. And when I say that, I mean they're going to offend people, and that's okay. You can't please everybody with what you write. I know that for sure with my book, but there are important to make sure what you're writing isn't going to offend certain people. And are, for example, if you're writing from a perspective that is not your own. For example, your character is a different race, gender, or sexual orientation, or something else from you. If you're writing difficult history, slavery in America, the Holocaust, there's a lot of difficult history. That list could be very long. If you're writing about controversial current events, Israel and Palestine, immigration, would be pretty long. If you are writing about a character that has a mental health struggle or maybe a traumatic personally with, are times it would be great to get a sensitivity reader so they can tell you how your writing is being perceived and make sure that it's conveying the message rather than offending people. Final type of reader, these come later on, ARC readers. An ARC is an advanced reader copy, and that a book, a copy of your book that you give out to people for free, and they'll release day and review it for you. Generally, they tend to be pretty generous as ARC readers because they're just very excited to get copies of a book for free, and they you advanced buzz and getting you reviews on your book before it's even officially out into the world. And then it's super important to have a publishing platform. So when you're doing this yourself, there are two very large publishing platforms that you can choose between, Ingram Spark and Amazon. Pros and cons to each. These are the two really big dominators in this world right now. So Ingram Spark, it's called an aggregator. which means they do all the printing for you and the production for you, but they aren't a storefront, so you have to sell it yourself elsewhere. So some pros of Ingram Spark: cost you pay for Ingram is the printing. So 100% of the rest of the retail price is your profit when customers purchase directly through you. Um, your book is available via Ingram, which is where the vast, vast majority of libraries and bookstores order their stock from, which makes it a lot easier for retails to get your book. Uh, to get your book, they have the new e-commerce links, which allow customers to buy directly through you, so you can maximize your profit. If you have like a website or other platform, they can just buy direct. And for extra cost, we'll also create marketing and promotional materials for you. And they have all these different services to expand the reach of your book. So, like I said, it's not its own retail platform, so you need to find and or create your own. The currently only available for the US and is customers pay for shipping when they purchase directly through you. Some people might find that a pro. Customers don't generally like paying for shipping. Then pause and then switch over to Amazon and buy it from there, where they get free shipping and you just don't make as much money that way. And then the customer service is terrible. They're slow. Generally take them weeks to get back to you, and they'll probably just send you links to a couple help articles. I know this from experience. Amazon. Amazon is not an aggregator, they are a retailer. This means that they sell your book for you, but they do it to other platforms for you. So, pros, it's the number one online retailer worldwide. This provides massive reach for your book. They provide free shipping for customers via Amazon Prime. Has to pay for shipping. Reportedly, from the authors I know that I've spoken to, they have extremely high customer service. Questions you might have, it's also a super easy process. And this isn't on there because I only just recently learned this from an author, but they have a book cover design feature in there. They aren't going to be super intricate, but they are really pretty. They have just a couple stock options that you can put together for a book cover. Cons, so they don't have bookstores or libraries directly on Amazon. There's no option to buy directly from the author. There are lower profit margins for authors who have to share royalty splits with Amazon, and your book can only be sold on Amazon unless you purchase separate ISBNs. If you don't want to go corporate, so to speak, there are some forms. So On Press, Lulu, Book Vault, and B&N Press, Barnes and Noble Press. Admittedly, that is still corporate, but these are some of the smaller self-publishing platforms. There's also one that's called Book Buy. I did read an article on it that didn't really have concrete data on whether or not it's super legit. They did some digging and found that it was founded by somebody who previously had a different self-publishing platform that was awful review. And so there's some speculation that maybe it's their attempts to rebrand and do a new business, and maybe isn't better, or maybe it will be better. That's just because I'm not sure if it's actually worth looking at or not, but you certainly. Okay, so those pieces together into a timeline. Generally, this is probably the order of operations that you're going to take. First step in this process is going to be editing, and I would allot 4 to 8 weeks for editing. One, because it's a super important part of the process, but two, because that's the amount of time it will take for you to get your book to your editor, to edit it, and then you to implement those edits. And for what it's worth, some of these can take place simultaneously. So the next step could be happening while you're doing this as well. Work and read could be happening during that 4 to 8 weeks. You could start to commission your book cover art or any other art. I say 1 to 6 weeks here because you honestly could get those in a week. Art in a week. Some artists take longer. And I also, just like a word of caution, my map designer, obviously awesome, but she kind of goes, apparently that's her MO. She's done that to some other authors. I think in the end it was worth it because the map is beautiful, but artists have a busy load. Some of them are doing this part-time. And so it's worth noting that they might take longer than you'd like. So factor in a lot of time for that. Readers will need time to read your book. So give them a couple weeks just in case. Formatting, 1 to 2 weeks. This is general, won't need that long. Not. I am a very tech competent person just because of my background in tech. If you're not super confident with it take you a little bit longer to learn the software or to format, maybe ask for some help if you need it. That's why I would say about 1 to 2 weeks. Then about a week I'm giving to input it into the platform. Could you do this in a few hours? Yes, absolutely. I say a week because this is the important step. There's some things that you're going to have to make decisions on at this point that you can't change later without having to purchase a new ISBN, dollars a pop. And some of the terms might be unfamiliar to you. So rather than a couple hours, I would just really take the time to do it right and make sure the metadata that you're putting in there that's going to go out to all these sites where people can buy your book, that's going to go to bookstores and 100% correct and what you want. Once it's all in there, though, you hit publish and you get your e-proof. And it takes about 3 to 5 days for the platform to put together an e-proof. Read this carefully. So I'm going to tell you a story about a time where I did not read it carefully. Um, I published my book. This is also something that's pretty cool. Once your book is out into the world with these different, you can actually a whole document free anytime as long as it's the same page length and doesn't really drastically change your book. But if you found some errors after it's out there, fix those and then edit up a new PDF, and the errors are no longer in new copies. So after my book, I decided some language to the copyright page around not using my book to train generative AI. And I changed that one page, uploaded a PDF, e-proof, because I was like, whatever, I only changed one page. As it turns out, the software glitched, and on about 20 pages, it created a formatting issue where it spliced a word in a way that didn't make sense, or it cut off my punctuation and dropped a line, and it was not great. And I never would have known if somebody hadn't pointed it out to me in the copy that they got. So changed one page, view your e-proof to do it. But once you like it, once you think it's good, you approve it and you'll get your print proof. Might seem crazy that I 4 weeks here. Again, learn from my mistakes. I thought 7 days it would take for me to get my book. I work in a bookstore. We order indie print on demand books all the time. Didn't take as long. Bookstore taking for me to get my proof copy. It took 3 weeks for me to get my very first copy. And so that's why I say here 2 to 4 weeks. And I had allotted my 7 days. Once I approved my e-proof copy, I was like, this is real. I started marketing my book, and it ended up arriving 1 week before the release that I had created to the whole world. And it was a very stressful week proofing that copy. I did it. I would never do it that way again. So 2 to 4 weeks. And then give yourself some time to proofread that copy. You don't necessarily have to do it in the actual physical copy. I did. I really liked the experience of reading my book as a reader, and I felt like the change in media, see some things that I missed previously. But I would do this relatively quickly. I did it in 3 days. Not ideal. It was a matter of what I had to do. I would say 2 weeks. 3 if you're being really cautious to proofread. And, fix the file, load it, load your e-proof again, make sure there's nothing wrong with it. And, then it's real. And you just wait for your release day. I would give for this next section a little bit of time so you can start to build some hype before your release day. Send out some art. Find your art readers. Send them out. You can do ebooks for basically free to them. Or you can send out, just order them your distributor and send them. And do some pre-release marketing. Social TikTok people do a lot. I don't, but really build up your social media presence if you want to build up that buzz. And then release. It's one day, but it's this day. It's the best day, and you deserve to celebrate in whatever way that looks for you. So, the Indie Author School helps. We do a lot of this alongside you. So for the editing put all of the I used to set my book in there. The ones that I liked, the ones that worked for me, tweaked them in the way that worked for me. Again, consuming it. These exercises are super helpful and they're really good. Introductions to editors, in particular, my editor and other great editors who have one of them is about the formatting issue book. She was reading it, and I'm very grateful to her. Um, Resources and tools for establishing strong writing habits so that you finish your book. 80% of people say that they've started writing a book and only finished it. So, want you to establish writing habits so you finish it. For artwork and design, we help, you can the cover of your reviews, right? But there are also trends, and when people specific genre, looking for something in particular. And so we help you pick the cover style that's right for your genre, that accomplishes what you want to accomplish. And we also have, I break down Atticus and Vellum for you. Publishing platform, I have a step-by-step guide on publishing with Ingram. I have a detailed step guide on Amazon is my recommended publisher because of that. And libraries to bookstores to ask if they'll carry my book, and I tell them it's an Ingram. Boom, they're like, no problem, we'll take it. And it's kind of a requirement for some books. I think it just extra up. And finally, marketing. Again, we're not going to talk a whole lot about that in this webinar, but we'll teach you how to create a one sheet, which is the tool that gets your books in library. We will help you build and stick to a market plan that works. And finally, and maybe most importantly, is the community. And the community itself adds to your audience and reach. I like others that I work with via the podcast and via the school. I will help you market your book, quite simply. And not on this slide, but there are consulting options there. So as you're going through the course or hit a wall, you can always schedule a one-on-one session with me and work through it. As a final note, before we close this out, I think a lot of people have hesitancy around indie publishing because they think it's going to close the door to a dream, which is a traditional book deal. And you'll find that that's not actually the case. On this slide are just a couple famous authors who first indie published, and you should know their names for sure. And there's way more than I put on here. And in addition to that, in popularity as a way to access traditional publishing. So some publishers are even opening specific for scouting, recruiting. So don't think that if you go this route, you have closed that door. But once you go this route, you also don't want that door anymore because you realize it's a lot more profitable. And that's it for today. This is going to be our very first session, and I hope you'll join for the next one. If you are interested in learning, follow that QR code right there to enroll, and you can use the code SIGNING for 20% off. I just realized that I didn't share these last couple screens with you. Sorry about that. Indie Author School helps. I already went through them. Here's those famous authors who first indie published. And here's that QR code. Thanks for joining.